Hi, everyone. Welcome to Behind the Screen, the Harms of Cyberbullying. I'm your host, Devin Moore. I'm a Humanity Rising ambassador, founder of Race to Speak Up, an anti-bullying organization, and designer of the hashtag Behind the Screen anti-cyberbullying curriculum.
And I am Dr. Sundeep Randhawa. I am a forensic child and adolescent psychiatrist. I will be the co-host and be joining Devin tonight on talking about cyberbullying, the effects, and giving a mental health perspective.
Yeah, and as the host of Behind the Screen, Sundeep and I will, like he said, we'll talk about what cyberbullying is. We'll talk about cyberbullying prevention, how to be upstanders, and mental health. And we encourage all of you to type in the chat and answer the polls. I'm glad to have Dr. Sundeep with us. His expertise will definitely help us understand the harms of cyberbullying. And as an advocate for anti-bullying, I understand that there's a need for something effective to be put in place that helps the youth so that they won't have to go through this issue of cyberbullying. And before we get into the definition, the statistics and effects, let me tell you the story behind the screen. Cyberbullying has directly affected me, and it motivated me to creating the Race to Speak Up movement. When I was 14 years old, during my 8th grade school year, 3 of my former middle school classmates decided to take my face and they photoshopped it with a gun to my head. They put my face on top of a gorilla suit and they put my face going into the trash. It was racism. It's traumatizing. It's offensive. This was something I knew could not be ignored. And that's why I founded Race to Speak Up. I didn't want what happened to me to happen to someone else. And Sundeep understands that drive to help others. Sundeep, why don't you tell us your story?
Sure. So I went into the medical route, became a psychiatrist, being able to realize that words matter. You can do a lot with them and connect on different levels. Being a doctor gave me the extra assist in but when it comes to bullying, have similar stories where right after 9/11 happened, went from an average kid to all of a sudden terrorists couldn't go on flights and just being called names and assumed that I was such a horrible person. So bullying and cyberbullying is really near and dear, just because I can relate with Devin and the empathy side. So really excited to be here and be able to do and help as a doctor, but also more importantly, be able to be on something like this.
Yeah, Dr. Sundeep and I both agree that hashtag Behind the Screen is the perfect guide to help people understand how much cyberbullying can impact others. And also, hashtag Behind the Screen teaches students, parents, and teachers about this important issue. What is cyberbullying? Cyberbullying is unwanted and aggressive behavior targeted at someone using digital devices. It's repeated instances. It's not just a one-time thing. It can be sharing harmful and negative content or personal information about someone. And it can be through social media. You see so many people are on Instagram now. They're on TikTok, Snapchat, Twitter. Social media shouldn't be used to spread hate. And it can be through text and direct messages. Everyone, if you're comfortable, why don't you please answer this poll? The question is, have you gone through cyberbullying? Sundeep, can you share 1 or 2 cyberbullying stories that youth have told you through your line of work?
Sure. So when I work in the inpatient unit, this is where the effects of bullying, which we're going to continue to talk about, get so intense that youth can't handle it. So, once upon a time, bullying was you could walk off the schoolyard and you weren't going to get bullied till the next day. But now, people can be found on any of these social platforms. So I've seen kids that couldn't, well, one specifically that wasn't able to handle it because, similar to what Devin just mentioned, there was a female, young 14, that was photoshopped in a compromising position, left on a Friday. It was put on Facebook, and then there was subgroups on Facebook on rate her position, doing all these acts that she didn't obviously do. And then come Monday, well, by Monday she already found out, but she was on all of these websites, and it made such a ripple effect. She couldn't handle it, became extremely depressed quickly, and then suicidal, because it was the first time she had gone into or experienced something like that. But it was so devastating and unimaginable that she didn't think there was any other option than to take her own life, because she couldn't talk to her family. It was such a devastating thing to talk about in the first place. But that and things very similar, I see, literally day to day. And sometimes right when you think you haven't heard anything that could get more intense or different, a new story will come and you'll just, just make me realize that one, being able to help is one thing, but the things that everyone is going through with cyberbullying and the easy access to being able to cyberbully is just, on another level. So it happens, but yeah, that's just, at the extreme where this has happened. And unfortunately, I have colleagues that are also child psychiatrists that have lost youth to the effects of cyberbullying because of suicide being the ultimate, or happening so, repeatedly that school didn't listen, others didn't listen, nowhere to go, and I just figured why not. But all the reason is such a important topic. But yeah, to say the least, that's the things I see on a daily basis.
Wow, Sundeep, no, that's really scary. I mean, it breaks my heart to hear that. In fact, I'm sorry, I see Alexander put in the chat, I was bullied by my ex-best friend and she constantly demeaned me and threatened to kill me. It's so easy to hide behind the screen. Alexander, I'm truly sorry to hear about that. And it really is. I mean, I know when it comes to literally hiding behind the screen, it just, being behind a computer screen almost gives you this false sense of security. It makes you feel so like powerful. It makes the bully, excuse me, feel so powerful being behind this like shield, but it's not at all right. It's terrifying. And it truly, as Sundeep and I know, leads to so many devastating issues. And unfortunately, it's been on the rise, especially since the start of the pandemic.
Tremendously.
Yeah, why don't we look at some of the statistics? Okay, cyberbullying has increased over 70% since the start of the pandemic. You see, because so many people are on their phones more and more, there has been such a drastic increase in this issue, but we're going in the wrong direction. 50% of the youth won't even report these situations. It's happening more and more and more. And 7 out of 10 young people experience cyberbullying before the age of 18. Guys, can you believe how high these numbers are? And Dr. Sundeep, out of all your years as working as a child and adolescent psychiatrist, could you ever imagine these numbers being so high?
Not at all. And COVID definitely did not help with it. So yeah, it's just on another level.
Yeah. And why don't we take a look at the effects? There's way too many effects, but I highlighted a few to give you guys a real understanding of what it can lead to. Now, cyberbullying can lead to anxiety. That's the feeling of fear or uneasiness. I know when I was going through my bullying experiences, I went through so much anxiety. I can relate to lower self-esteem, how we value or see each other. And unfortunately, I went through a little bit of depression. Depression is the feeling of sadness or loss of interest. Cyberbullying can lead to headaches. It can lead to stomach aches. You may not even want to eat, and it can affect your relationship with friends and family. Sundeep, what effects have you gone through? Oh, excuse me. Guys, why don't all of you answer this next poll? What effects have you gone through, or, I mean, what have you seen others go through when dealing with cyberbullying? And Dr. Sundeep, could you share what effects you've seen the youth go through?
Definitely. So I think all of them combined is the combination that I'll see in the inpatient unit. And like I was alluded to earlier, when your self-esteem starts to get lowered, you can start to fear the fact that you're going to have to go to school, and all of that can definitely overwhelm. And I think one key thing that I see with youth that come in is they will only come in when all of those have combined to the point where now they're so depressed they can't, function or go to school. So one key thing that Devin and I want to make sure and highlight is, if you start to see any one of these effects start to build, either in yourself, your friend, say something or try to offer some type of proactive help on just giving any type of guidance or just, trying to help them speak up, which, we're going to continue to talk about because it can be so hard to talk about things or just say I'm getting bullied or to even acknowledge it. So if you start to see those effects, I think they're key to really understand and to, be able to acknowledge. But yeah, all of them we'll see on any given day. But anxiety is one of those things which can impact everything so much. The anxiety that you'd experience, Devin, how would that get you every day? Was it slow to build up or was it?
That's a good question. I remember like while I was in the heat of it kind of would like as soon as I would enter the school building or as soon as I would just like go online, which of course I stopped going online for a while, it just like it was this moment of like what's it called? Like I started feeling like I was literally heating up and then oh and then also paranoia came along with it. So like I would start to feel like someone was following me, which was another whole thing because like I couldn't even go into stores without thinking someone was coming after me. I couldn't even go into all these different types of places. I started seeing my peers differently too, which is a whole like me starting to see my peers in a bad light just because of what these three boys did. They were showing me racism at a young age. I mean, I was 14 at the time. I was 14. So I would say like I was experiencing a lot of racism at an early age or a lot of bullying at a very early age. But the thing is also another like question I can come up with out of just like that last thing that I just said is how young can you be bullied? And I think that bullying can happen at any age. And like you said, Sundeep, I know this is kind of going on as like a longer answer to what you just said, but like I think that kind of just opens up this like conversation of upstanders. Like we need to be upstanders. An upstander is someone who intervenes or like is acting in support of the victim. They help the victim when it comes to their bullying experiences. And Sandeep, I really think the world needs more upstanders. And so how do you think we can be upstanders?
Sure. So, going back to the effects, to be an upstander, I think Peyton, for instance, just mentioned that while getting bullied, social anxiety would make laughter happen or humor happen. So one thing to really understand out of all the effects is anxiety is the most intense and has the most amount of faces. I describe it as a chameleon in regard to our feelings and symptoms, just because it can make us do funny things when we're that uncomfortable. So for instance, if you're laughing it off, the next person might not be able to see that as bothering you or affecting you. So being really aware of it can be good, but I think the more aware than you are, the more it allows us to be upstanders and to say, be like, hey, are you okay? Maybe check in way after the fact or maybe after an episode or an experience just to see how they're actually doing, and then look for subtle things of avoidance, or are they not eating or taking it out in different ways. But just it obviously can make a huge impact by being an upstander, and hopefully the more we speak of this, the more we can engage, and people can tell us more about ways that they were upstanders, maybe Devin, and both the process, experience that, or throw it on race to this and make it into a hashtag of its own, which I'm sure you creativeness will get to. But nonetheless, upstanders are the key to slowly changing the ratios of bullying and the stats that you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, and of course we'll definitely get into like how like when it comes to my race to speak up movement, but I want to ask you because I know like it like as we are talking about it leads to all these different effects. As far as like your relationships with families, just when it comes to bullying in general, how does it really affect the victim as a like when it comes to their loved ones? Like will they isolate themselves? Will they just go into this state of depression and not want to talk to anyone? Not that I'm saying they're doing it purposely, but just not talk to anyone? Or how exactly does that work as far as like relationships with loved ones?
Sure. So more often than not, well, to answer the spectrum question, answer would be that literally any reaction may occur, right? You just don't know how your frustration is going to get the best of you. But the majority of the time for, let's say, older adolescents, I would say like 11, 12 or above sometimes, school ends up being that place where you have no control, but you're all, either anxious or avoiding or scared, etc. And so all that built up energy and the things you couldn't say or the things you wish you could have done to the bully, that energy gets built up and usually comes home and either will be contained, but then the second somebody irritates you or frustrates you, you might just project all that anger onto them, or instead bring it inside and just be very secretive about that anger, etc. And those that frustration energy is what typically will be seen to either, again, become isolated or projected. And usually the family members will be like, wait, why are you getting so mad over the smallest things? So like quickly frustrated, quickly irritated. And that can usually be the dynamics, which then slowly will either make it so everyone's walking on eggshells, or just things you're going through a phase or something. But that's usually the majority reaction that I'll see when youth tell me, or my clients tell me about their initial effects, or when the families tell me about what they've been seeing.
It's interesting that you bring that up, because I can definitely relate to like the anger part. I mean, I was never really snapping or at anyone, or like I felt like I was containing it, which I knew I really needed to get that out somewhere. So I started going to therapy, which is something I think a lot of, not only the victim, in order to help the victim work through what the bully is putting them through, the trauma, but I think the bully needs to go through therapy, because why are you acting this way towards someone? Or why are you targeting them? Why are you targeting your victim? Or why are you bullying someone for this reason? Why are you bullying them in general? I think that a huge aspect when it comes to that, or just a huge part of it, is like home environment. What's going on at home? We really need to, I think a big part is diving into the actual bully's life. Would you agree? Because I really do think that it's just a matter of like, one of the matters is seeing what's going on at home, which is where therapy comes along.
Sure. So one of the core, I mean, if you think about it the simplest form, this character that enters your life is intentionally trying to hurt you in some way, right? So if they're intentionally trying to do that, they don't know better because they're intentionally doing it. So they believe that whatever they're doing is right. That's why they continue to do it. But I agree, getting to know then the family, if they get in trouble, is key, because surprisingly enough, sometimes you expect that the family is probably all chaotic, etc., but there'll be a perfectly intact family. This is just an outlier, or someone that maybe doesn't get enough attention at home. Others, sometimes will be from very chaotic homes where parents parent inconsistently, no rules, or just spoiled, the whole gamut of things where basically no rules need to be followed. And that's usually the underpinnings of doing this. And sometimes, again, with cyberbullying, because it's behind the screens, it's so easy to do it. Anybody will comment more than they typically probably would in person. So it's I think it's really a key thing, but it also does bring in a lot of light when the parents don't know how bad the kid is, and there's a disconnect where there's like this hidden evil. But sometimes, and I see, you never know who's going to become vulnerable, and somebody's going to take initiative over someone and try to put them down over and over again. But yeah, families I think are definitely key to figure it out, because then if you get them on board the earlier, the more maybe they can help change and make a difference in the bully, so the bully corrects. But more often than not, the bully themselves will, because they don't know right now that they are doing such bad things, they think it's cool or whatever, they tend to find out later on in life, whether it's 10 years, 15, 20. I had an older client in training who was 67 and feeling so guilty for years of bullying that he had done on his younger sibling and his siblings' friends, like 50 years later. But this guilt that was just driving him like nuts on how bad he was, how mean he was, et cetera, and just wishing he wouldn't have. So I think it will eventually come back around, despite the fact that we don't see it. Again, cyberbullying is a bit more difficult just because you don't have that palpable feeling in person. But I think collectively, the more you're able to talk to the family, engage, the more you're able to then maybe navigate the bully itself.
That's interesting. I actually want to bring up someone else in the chat who just gave their bullying experience. And for everyone, openly saying their bullying experience, I want to thank you all. Again, this is a very safe space. And so Daniela said, I was bullied tremendously this year. People called me obese and tried to insult me by calling me trans, which I'm not, and sent me pictures of anorexic people and told me to be like them. My anxiety, depression got much, much worse. Daniela, I am so sorry to hear that. And that's also, I'm sorry, like going again back to what Sundeep said, because like that brings up this, what I also started thinking about what you just said is like, there's times when the bully may not even know that they're bullying, which is very interesting. And that's why we really need to teach them at young ages. That's why we need to have this hashtag behind the screen guide in order for others to understand that this is a real issue and like how to identify it. It's all in the curriculum, how to identify it, its impacts, those statistics, effects, what exactly it is. It's all in this curriculum, as well as activities to really start up this conversation, like by Daniela, by Peyton, Ellie, giving their bullying experiences, which again, I want to say thank you for being so open. It allows for you and your chapter, you and your club, you and your group to really, or you and your hashtag behind the screen chapter to really understand each other. I think a lot of people need to understand what others are going through. I mean, that's the main thing of what we're saying as well. When I started my Race to Speak Up movement, I'll give you a little bit more information as far as like what the actual name of it means. So Race to Speak Up, it has two meanings. And one is that we need to hurry up and we need to speak up. We always encourage others to speak up about their bullying experiences and let them know that we are here for them. And then the other meaning is that we are all a part of one race, which is the human race. We shouldn't be coming at anyone for any reason, whether it be size, whether it be race, like in my situation, whether it be sexuality, religion. We shouldn't be coming at anyone for these different for these different reasons. I also see Mr. Skinnell, or Dan Skinnell, my history teacher, said, love the upstander concept, especially because of the challenge of underreporting that you highlighted earlier. Yeah, it really is underreported. It's happening more than we even know. Kenneth said, I got bullied by two of my classmates back in 8th grade, and one of them took it to Instagram by calling me gay and laughing about it. I also got bullied back in Spain, mostly because of my race, and it was hard to deal with for me because back then I didn't know what to do. Sundeep, how would you respond to that?
Sure. So that's exactly, or not exactly, but that's similar to something I experienced with 9/11, where overnight I, went from a regular kid to always brown and then terrorist, et cetera. And it bothered me to the point where, again, you would avoid going to school. Luckily, I had a pretty multiracial collective group of friends, so they would kind of say things on my behalf at school from time to time. But remember that year, getting strip search and regular search, whatever, trying to go through the airlines everywhere. I'd always be that lucky, that random that had to be selected. And initially, it would bother me. I would avoid it. Obviously everyone would tease, etc. It's all because I'm brown and that I'm a terrorist and etc. They would tease it into it, and like I was saying earlier, that anxiety would make me laugh about it or giggle about it. But eventually, what I think ended up, my father ended up kind of gauging that something was going on, and it was obviously national. But the confidence was what was needed, because what ended up happening is I took, so I got advice from my dad kind of saying, if they're saying this to you and you're not a terrorist, right? I'm like, no. He's like, well, then why does it bother you? Why can't you just be like, well, I'm not a terrorist. If they think you're a terrorist, then so what? And then after he'd send that to me, I'm like, but why do they keep thinking it? They're like, you're never going to be able to answer the why, right? That's just, and behind the scenes, behind the scenes and screens, you're never going to be able to answer the why. All right. So if you leave out the why, just think of what you're going to do about it. I'm like, okay, cool. So made that my own. and then eventually started doing the paradox of what they would want me to do. So basically started thinking of bullies as characters, like villains out of a movie, and then how I would deal with them, and then almost acting out scenarios, but also not giving the bully any ammo. So basically what I'm getting at is if they would call me a terrorist or gay, or try to post anything, instead of giving them what they wanted, which was some type of reaction, I would embrace it and not let it bother me and just accept whatever they're saying, because everyone in all of those collectives are cool, right? If you're trans, gay, terrorist, whatever. I mean, of course, terrorists are not cool. That's not what I'm getting at. But the fundamentals, the characteristics of what they would try to get at me, I would just embrace. And all of a sudden, it started going the opposite. So they'd be like, oh, again, similar. There's a terrorist, or do something, whatever. And as mean as it sounds, I'd be like, I really, really like that you always remember that I'm a terrorist. It's almost like you don't even come here for school. You just come here to let me know that. And I really like that. And he was like, and took it however you wanted, but how many times do you think he did it after that? 0. It was weird because that was the beginning of like just starting to embrace it. So, it's not easy to get there, but the sooner you confidently just accept that this person's not going to change and take out that why factor, it can help you navigate, at least to some degree. Again, that's just something to keep in mind. But I think if it's in a group thing, I think we're going to get to it, but part of that paradox is also exaggerating an effect. So if they say and have all this time to Instagram or post, etc., the other way to embrace it would be like, thank you so much for thinking about me. I didn't know you have that much time in your hands. Let me know where you're going to post tomorrow. Beat them to the punch, right? And it can desensitize or take the oomph away from this person trying to get under your skin. And again, it won't take the effects that we talked about away, but it's one step towards neutralizing without giving the person ammo. Because if you say thanks for saying what you're saying, or thanks for spending all this time on me and posting, what are they going to maybe tell you at the most, right? Be like, oh, well, damn right, thanks. No, nobody says that, right? Especially on cyber, all right, because it's there forever. Be like, oh, did you thank him for, you bullying him? Be like, what? No, that's not cool. So it's an added measure to take. But again, I think that's just one route to long-winded way of describing different ways. But if you can think of it conceptually, it's a little bit easier. And if you can take it one step further and neutralize the key, not to give them ammo while you say what you need to say to get that paradox.
That's a very interesting way to come at it, because especially like with what you're saying, that's like taking their power. And I can completely actually really relate to that, because I did go through this other experience where this person just kept coming at me and like calling me these other different slurs. And it was more so my reaction to that, saying like, stop. Whereas like once I ignored them, that was when they got mad. And that's when I realized I was like reclaiming that power. I think it's interesting. I'm saying interesting a lot, but I think it's definitely a unique way to do it when you can realize that you do have the power, which we all do have the power to, we all have our power, and we just really need to realize it. We have the power to speak up. We have the power to be upstanders, and let others know, again, going back to this, that we are here for them and we support them. In fact, I see someone put something in the chat. Sometimes it's hard to tell how these issues arise. Oh yeah, that is true. At times you may not know how these like cyberbullying issues arise. I think that also may be a matter of listening to the victim when it comes to bullying. Sundeep, how would you respond to that?
I mean, it is hard. There's not really a right way. I think just making sure that it's something that could be happening lets you keep it on guard. It's sort of like when we're walking across the street, you're always cautious that a car might be coming, right? So if bullying's in the air, but it's also behind the scenes, little things and really being cognizant of those effects that we're talking about earlier can help you pick up on it, right? So is somebody avoiding something, somebody just not hanging out as much, or avoiding school, avoiding, certain hallways, things like that, or not even, it could be more behavioral because it's, behind the scenes, lets you just ask that question. So you won't know until you know. So it is really hard. If it was easy, we would be able to reduce these stats and help much more proactively.
Yeah, in fact, the cyberbullying statistics I'm pulling up now, and I'm seeing like, how has cyberbullying affected you? That question. So there was a very high percentage of everyone who did go through cyberbullying answering anxiety, like we did say. Um, and then I haven't gone through cyberbullying, but I've seen others and it's scary. Yeah, that's also one of the highest, which is very true. That is very terrifying. It's something that no one should go through. These effects, cyberbullying is something that no one should go through. Let's move on to the next thing, unless Sundeep, you would like to respond to that.
No, just one thing going back to the poll was, we were just talking about it could be hard to see, right? So the ones that messaged saying that they haven't experienced it, but their friends or someone they knew had, and it was scary. It'd be cool to hear some of those, obviously with no names or anything, but just if you could share some of those ones, that we could talk about them on what you saw was scary, when did you see it was scary, and then the friends or the people that you knew, after you saw that scariness, did you look back at, their behaviors? Was it sudden? Was it gradual? Did you notice something in hindsight when thinking about how things had been? Because again, things can get scary, but all the more reason to, I think, if you know that spectrum of what scary things can happen, and if anybody wants to share any of those scary things that friends experience, I think it'd be worth talking about. That was just one thing I was going to bring up. If those stories come up, we can maybe talk about it a little bit, but all the more reason that it can, be really hard to detect at the right time.
Yeah, we're here to answer all of your guys' questions and offer any advice that we can, as well as the curriculum. We would love for you guys to please implement that into your schools and environment. At the end, I'll give you guys the agreement policy in order for you guys to get the curriculum. But I see someone else put something in the chat. When I was younger, my skin condition flared up on my face, and suddenly even my old friend were bullying me. I started to stop engaging with them, and the next year she apologized to me in private. Oh, that's actually pretty interesting. Sundeep, do you have anything to say before I say something about that?
It's great that she apologized. In that she became cognizant of it sooner. One thing to keep in mind with friends and best friends as you're making them and breaking them is sometimes they're also learning how to do the engaging thing, and also if something is visually different, like your skin condition flared up, there could be a fine line between teasing and bullying, and sometimes it could be hard to gauge that when you're kind of learning the game of teasing, especially if it was a friend. I see that sometimes on with a lot of my clients where their childhood friends or best friends didn't mean it as much, but they went to the point of bullying, or maybe engaged others in helping them bully or tease you, but then it turned into bullying. So I think just being aware of that teasing bullying option or the separation is key. But really glad to hear that you did get the apology in private. So better late than never, but it's good that you got it within the year, and hopefully you were able to make amends with whoever that person was, your friend. But
yeah, actually, Sundeep, you kind of said exactly what I was gonna say, because I was just gonna like add on that there are times where the bully, or the one who maybe didn't mean to go into bullying, but unfortunately it did lead to that, may come to you in private, or they may say to just you like, oh, I'm sorry, like I didn't mean for this to happen, but yet may not tell others to stop, or may not tell others that we didn't mean to do this, or like we didn't mean for this to lead to this. Oh, and then I also see that Debbie asked, Sundeep, what type of bullying are you seeing the most?
Sure. So now that schools are reopened and going back to it, I'm still seeing cyberbullying the most. It's again the access. It's whoever has access can get access, and on any given day, your phone, you have millions of people you have access to. So cyberbullying is still the most, but getting a chance to talk to families and then getting better supports in place has led to decreased use of some social media stuff, which is then decreasing the cyberbullying part. And something Devin and I may talk about at a future webinar is surprisingly enough, because of COVID, so far that's what the research is showing, a year and a half of no in-person school, the bullies that were, physical bullies or had to see you in-person bullies and learn those ways to tease, or not tease, but, just intentionally harm you, hurt you repeatedly. Those that are going back down to school have kind of forgotten their ways. And I've seen more and more of some patients or clients that have been in the hospital before be less coordinated in their aggression. So they'll say like bad words in bad ways. And it's almost like, wait, are you trying to talk shit to me, or do you not know how to talk shit, or like, let me help you out? It's almost like they don't even know how to do the bullying act anymore. So I've seen a gradual change in that, but there's still more research happening on it. So that could be something positive from the no school for a year. But going back to it, yeah, cyberbullying still is going to be number one, just because of access.
So Dr. Sundeep, how can we tell who can be a bully?
All right. So, like I was mentioning earlier, one of the ways I try to strategize and do through therapy is, if you think of a bully, think of just a neutral villain, or who can be a villain, right? So any sex, right? So they're asexual. And then if you think of all the bullies, the villains in all the movies, Marvel, just Cinderella, like Disney, etc., and then some, just Bond even, they are coming from all different homes, right? So there's homes and backgrounds, so their stereotype is zero. So they're stereotypeless, right? So they're asexual, stereotypeless, and then they're also coming from all types of socioeconomic statuses. So that's one. Home environment, although they can vary, more often than not, they're coming from a chaotic home environment. And the types of bullying they'll do will either be, out towards the world, meaning they'll do it behind the scenes and screens, but also if they see you in person, so they'll be very, overt with their aggression, or they'll be very covert as well. So, either sex, stereotypeless, the home environment's chaotic, overt or covert aggression. They'll lack positive social behavior, obviously, right? Otherwise they wouldn't intentionally be doing this. And then, like I was just mentioning, it's easy access to a victim. So therefore, anyone with that easy access and the other components can become a bully and stay a bully.
Is there a way that maybe you could visually show us how to remember?
Well, sure. I think by making an acronym, I could just chat. So what do we say? I'm just gonna throw this into the chat. So we had, first was asexual. So we got A. Stereotypeless, right? So we got S. We have socioeconomic, was, they could be coming from any or. So we got S. Home environment, keep in mind, will be chaotic. So their home environment, you want to check. They are overtly or covertly aggressive, right? So we have O, and then they lack all types of positive social behavior. So we got, L, and then lastly, they have easy access to, obviously the victim. So, there we go. What is that? Okay, sure. Basically, it can be anyone that could be an asshole. Easiest way to remember. But some of the components that you want to keep in mind, and luckily enough, that's the acronym that I think can assist when thinking of this character that enters your life, trying to intentionally hurt you.
That's I like that acronym, because I think that's something that a lot of people can easily understand. I also know that teachers can also understand. I think that teachers need to understand like how to identify bullying, how to know who can be a bully, which again, that's a great acronym to remember when it comes to that. I think that, teachers are also an aspect. Like, do these teachers know how to handle these bullying situations? Do they know if this is even a bully situation? Do they know, do they know these things, which is also included in the hashtag behind the screen curriculum. This again is for everyone to get a real understanding of what bullying, or excuse me, cyberbullying and bullying is. So Sundeep, why don't we now get into our now what segments, which also is a part of the hashtag behind the screen curriculum, because first it would be reenactments that you can go and discuss. And also we have now what segments where you guys can just talk about like what happens next. Should we be upstanders? Should we like, what should we do? Again, you guys can also type in the chat, what would you do in this situation? Or how can you be an upstander? The first one is about Sheila. Sheila is 13 and is dyslexic. Because of her dyslexia, Sheila has difficulty reading and doing math problems, problem spelling, and she frequently mispronounced words. Students at her school call her weird and stupid. Sheila has no friends. She eats lunch by herself every day in school, and the entire time, students are pointing and laughing. Sheila cries herself to sleep every night. She finds out that the students at her middle school created an Instagram page titled Dumbest Girl in School. It shows pictures of Sheila with captions reading, I can't even count to 10, too dumb for school, and too stupid for it's too stupid to be with friends with. So Sundeep, now what? I mean, what could we as upstanders do in this situation? What could Sheila do? Now what?
I think she's showing the effects that we were talking about. So if you see someone crying in the middle, even if you don't know this person, just, be supportive and say, are you okay? Can I help? Or can I get you a tissue? Or even, so I think that would be the, just identifying, again, the victim and identifying that something's going wrong, identify that, there's a whole bunch of people laughing at this person. If the person that they're laughing at isn't doing a comedic routine or some type of improv or a skit, then they should not be laughing in a collective group like that. And on the opposite side, if she's crying, and just jump in. You could single-handedly change the trajectory of that person's life. Like literally one time intervening, being that person. It's just mind-boggling how many times I'll across the ages have that type of experience where, like Devin was saying, bullying occurs anytime over our lifetime, right? The second you know that you can play with other kids by 3 or 4 years old, bullying can start happening. But that's where right and wrong needs to be intervened. But again, just jumping in, being that upstander, and just literally jumping in, right? Go superhero mode, but it's so subtle too. So that small little thing can make an impact. But again, it's just identifying and then stepping in. And in worst case scenario, the person says, I'm okay. At least you tried, right? And knowing that you should be able to then jump in and create that upstander experience.
Yeah. I see in the chat, Debbie said, all it takes is one person to change the person's life. I agree. Invite her to sit with you for lunch or ask if you can sit with her. I also agree. I think definitely inviting her to your friend group and inviting her to, let her know that there are people who support her and, you're here for her. In fact, that reminds me of a part of the hashtag behind the screen curriculum, or this example reminds me of a part of the curriculum that talks about what you do when you receive hateful images or like see that post or those posts, which the first thing that you do is you screenshot and you save everything, and then you speak up to someone you trust. So, if Sheila feels comfortable and if she, has enough confidence, if she has, those who she knows support her, speak up to them and let them know that this is happening because it shouldn't be happening. Let others know and keep speaking up until you know for a fact your voice is heard and something is being done. Someone else in the chat said, share your own experience as well. It can make her feel in a safe place. Exactly. Sharing what you guys have gone through, it opens up this conversation of like, okay, let me tell you like what's going on. I really need to get this feeling out. I really need to let others know that I don't want to be going through this. Sheila shouldn't be going through what she's going through. Anyone else who's going through cyberbullying, bullying in general, shouldn't be going through bullying. And that's why we're here to help you. Sundeep, do you have anything else to add on to that?
And I think all of those components are exactly what you want to do, but just keeping in mind, it starts with, again, identifying that person and getting them over, and then warming up to all of those dialogues, whether it in the lunchroom or elsewhere. I think being able to build that rapport, that connection, and then share that experience, then lets that next person know that they're not the only one, and build an arsenal of allies. So any and all of those, inviting, and then that camaraderie and the connectedness is what's needed, because at the end of the day, there's no reason bullying should be around, but there is. So yeah, helping, hanging out, and sharing experiences are definitely a solid.
Yeah, I agree. And now it's time for Q&A. This has been a great conversation, Sundeep, and of course, thank you for just being here. And thank you all for everyone who's here. But now it's time for Q&A. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to put it in the chat, and we're here to answer any and all questions. We're here to give you any advice that we can, offer any of our knowledge. So, Sundeep, oh, already a question. Okay. Devin, will you be letting participants? Oh, also guys, so something else that I am doing is the Race to Speak Up podcast, which is a podcast where I have conversations about bullying prevention. We talk about how to be upstanders, and we talk about how these change makers are making a positive difference in the world. So I will also link that in the chat a little later on, or just type in the Race to Speak Up podcast on Spotify, Anchor, and YouTube, just so you can see other events that I'm doing, and just really get another way of how to understand what bullying is and how you can be a part of the positive change. I see a question in the chat. What's the difference between teasing and bullying? So why don't I start off? Because I do get this question a lot, and then I'll let you go, Sundeep. I remember, and actually now I just have a story about it. I remember there was this one time I was in class. So I'm in 12th grade now and I'm 17, but I was in class and there was this person who was sitting next to me. So they know what I do through Race to Speak Up. And they were like, isn't that just teasing, when I was talking about my bullying experiences, which was kind of interesting to say. But so I explained the difference between teasing and bullying, as teasing is a one-time thing. It's not repeated like bullying. Teasing is it's not meant to harm you, whereas bullying is. Bullying is meant to harm you, and it's repeated. You're being targeted for being, again, I can go back to this, being your race, sexuality, religion, gender, a bunch of these different things, like your skin color, your height, your size, all of these different things. That's what bullying is. Teasing is a one-time thing. It's not repeated. It's more of like a joking thing that it's not meant to hurt you. Sundeep, do you have anything to add on to that?
No, I think you nailed it in your description. So, I always try to keep it very, very simple. So at its core, both bullying and teasing are intending to do something. With bullying, your intention, like Devin was also mentioning, is to harm, to hurt. And because of that, and if they know they get that thrill, because it becomes more repetitive. Teasing is still to intend to provoke a reaction, but that is in the context of playfulness. It's joking, right? So that's why friends will sometimes do that, or close, whoever your circle is, will start off that way and think of it as playful. But part of stopping it, or maybe dismissing it, is by one, acknowledge a teasing, right? Be like, all right, I get it. All right, yeah, I've got acne, I've got something on my skin. Anything else? All right, joke's over. Or just being real with your friend or your circle, because if they don't know that it's not coming off, because it's coming off playful, right? If they think they're playing with you and you're not saying anything back, or giving a grin or a smile, or laughing it off, but not expressing yourself specifically, then they're going to continue to play with you, right? But they don't know that they're hurting you at the same time. And so you want to let them know how it's actually making you feel, because to Devin, your point, it's usually once or twice thing, but teasing can be repetitive. Again, in the like I'll have youth that, you know, again, if it's acting something that's more chronic, that's going to be around, or still getting, you know, a variety of things could be there, but the teasing is and can be, again, repetitive, but it's letting somebody know that's hurting you, or, you know, affecting you, or just bothering you, and then that should in itself dismiss it, um, you know, more often than not.
Yeah, I agree. I know that there's like oftentimes people have actually come up to me and they've told me, oh, actually, I'll say this. Oftentimes at schools that I've just like, whether it be hearing it through my friends or hearing it at like these certain like different places, I hear like people may tease you and they say, oh, they're bullying me, ha ha ha. They're making a joke about bullying, but I don't think they know that this is like a real issue. They may not understand that. When they hear like just one like teasing comment, I'll just say like teasing comment, they automatically equate that to bullying. And I think we need to really like show the difference. Like I'm glad that that question was asked. We need to show that difference. We need to use the behind the screen curriculum so that you all understand like the difference between bullying and teasing, what cyberbullying is. Like again, it includes how to really get an understanding. There's so many different aspects to bullying. I could go on for hours and hours dealing with that. But actually we do need to wrap things up. If you guys have one more question, I think we can answer it. So make sure to put that in the chat quickly. But yeah, I just think that bullying needs to completely stop. But I think that's a given. Bullying needs to completely stop within the world. Cyberbullying needs to not be on the rise. When you go on social media, in fact, I remember there was this one time this is like in 2019, I think, or something like that. And this was actually, yeah, it was just closer to when I first started my organization. And I was on, because when I went through those bullying experiences, it like opened my eyes to these other bullying experiences. And so other people going through bullying. And I saw this collage on Instagram of you, like such young children, excuse me, just like such young children who took their own life because of bullying. I think that alone shows you how big of an issue this is. And I just wanted to quickly bring that up because the fact that we can show that on social media and not show positivity or not focus on positivity, or like focus on like how to understand that bullying is an issue on social media. I think we need to focus on that as opposed to like hurting someone or being negative to someone. I mean, in fact, a part of behind the screen is just positive affirmations. There's an activity where like you can, if you guys, you know, are comfortable with putting it on your social media, positive affirmations like I am enough or I have confidence to really like boost not only other people's energy, but your own. We need that positivity. We need that support. Um, I see someone asked in the comments, will you be doing any more Zooms like this? Of course, these are monthly virtual webinars. We would love for you to follow our social media, which I will link in the chat now, actually, so that you guys can get so that you guys can get updates on what when our next webinars are. Again, they are monthly. So I just put my links in the chat. All my social media, my Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter are all at Race to Speak Up. And so I put that in the chat, and I can also put Sundeep's in the chat as well. But yeah. And then also, so now we're at the end of this, we want to tell you about the agreement form. So please, oh wait, let me just quickly put Sundeep's social media into the chat. Okay, now, please fill out this agreement policy when you complete or when you commit to starting an anti-cyberbullying chapter through #BehindTheScreen. I just put the link in the chat for the Google form. Once filled out, we will send you the curriculum. We want to thank everyone for joining us for our monthly Behind the Screen, the Harms of Cyberbullying virtual webinar. Follow me again on those social medias, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. And also follow Sundeep. I linked everything there. His Twitter is at Sundeep Randhawa, just to make sure that you guys stay up to date on everything. You can also remember to follow Humanity Rising social media, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn at Humanity Rising, or head over to our website. It's www.humanityrising.org. Thank you all for joining us, and we appreciate you being a part of the anti-cyberbullying talk. Please come again.
Thanks, everyone. I had a great time tonight. Thanks, Humanity Rising. Thanks, Devin, for creating such an awesome group. Hope to, if there's certain topics, get at Devin, and we can continue this and hopefully talk more about bullying. An hour flew by, so hopefully everybody was able to engage and learn something, or at least absorb something. But yeah, if you see something, say something. But have a great night otherwise.
Have a great night, everyone. Bye.